The Dershow.
If the charge is not legit, you must acquit. Remember that? If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. But in this case, the charges are simply not legit. And if the charges are not legit, a jury must acquit. And if the jury doesn't acquit, then the judge must acquit. And if the judge doesn't acquit, then the Court of Appeals or the appellate courts have to acquit. But there's no way there should be a conviction in this case based on the illegitimacy of the charges in this case. The case is now over. I still can't figure out what the crime is. I cannot figure out how you can convert an expired misdemeanor into a viable felony based on the lack of evidence of what the defendant Trump intended when some functionary submitted a report indicating that the payment was for legal expenses or retainer expenses when it was actually to reimburse for a non-disclosure agreement. It's not as if, and Trump has said this and he's right, it's not as if he said this was for construction costs. I had a case like that when I represented Leona Helmsley. She had bought very expensive stereo system, and she listed it on her tax returns as, and crossed it out. You can see it's all whited out, and listed it in the tax returns as a security system, and argued that the security system, since it protected her papers and records, was tax deductible. And that became one of the bases for the charge. But there's a big difference between listing something as a security system when it's a stereo system, when it just plays records and tapes, and listing a payment designed to prevent a lawsuit from going forward as a legal expense. It is a legal expense. All right. You could argue he should have been clearer and he should have disclosed that it was hush money paid to a prostitute. Nobody in history has ever paid hush money to anybody and then listed it on a corporate form. But okay, you could argue that. But how do you get around the statute of limitations? You have to then say that when his secretary listed it that way, somehow Donald Trump had in mind that it would be a campaign contribution that he had to hide, even though he had no obligation to report campaign contributions until months after he was sworn in the White House. It just makes no sense whatsoever. But that's this case. And so if it ain't legit, you must acquit.